Hello everyone, Ember here, and welcome back to a new video. In this one, I'd like to take a look at a bunch of new card reveals for the set Battle Partners. So Battle Partners releases in Japan on January 24th, in case you weren't aware, and we basically expect most of the unreleased cards from this set to become part of the international set Journey Together, which releases in March. So a bit of a way off yet before we get these cards, playable on TCG Online or whatever, but still fun to take a look at. So we have a new Dudunsparce EX line. Dunsparce sadly isn't providing too much, but a very cute wool artwork. And I know a few people who do like to collect those. So yeah, very cute. And we have this new Dudunsparce EX, 270 HP, so at least, I guess, kind of tanky for a Stage 1 EX. Has 2 attacks, Adversary Tail. Yes, Adversary? Yeah. Does 60 damage for each of your opponent's Pokemon EX for 1 colorless. And then Drill Break does, or Drill Break, should say, for 3 colors, does 150, and then this attack's damage isn't affected by any effects on your opponent's active Pokemon, and then a very high retreat cost. So, honestly, nothing too crazy here. I think this could be a nice inclusion if you're already running the Dudunsparce engine, so the one that shuffles itself back into the deck to draw 3 cards, because post rotation, we won't have B-Barrel. So, I do think the Dudunsparce engine could pop up a wee bit more. So that's kind of cool. So you could definitely run this as like a one-off. Like against some decks, for example, Charizard, they're not going to put too many X's in play, so you won't do a ton of damage. But for example, against like the Zoroark EX deck, if that takes off in a big way, they might want to have like 3 or 4 Zoroarks in play. Could honestly see this being pretty good in that sense, if they print something like, well, I mean, they just printed Terrapagos, but if they did something like an Eternatus VMAX, for example, that did a load of damage forever, not forever, for each like Pokemon EX that you have in play or something, this could be a nice counter to that. So honestly, it doesn't seem that bad, but it definitely does need to be paired up with something because as it stands, this isn't enough, really, in my opinion, to be its own thing. But could be wrong about that. Could be a lot of fun. Also got a Banette we can take a look at here. Artwork is quite amusing. But yeah, Banette here has the attack Cursed Speech. We don't care about Spooky Shot, it's a terrible move. But Cursed Speech says your opponent shuffles 3 cards from their hand into their deck. Pretty interesting. You can use Xerastic, of course, to discard cards from your opponent's hand, so you have 3 remaining. So that might be quite a nice option here. But even then, even if you destroy your opponent's hand with this combo, you're not really doing that much to contribute to your win strategy, if that makes sense. You still have to take 6 prize cards or deck your opponent out in some form or other. So I'm not really sure what your win condition would be at that point. I mean, I'm guessing you try and counter catch or something that's difficult to retreat, and then you kind of just deplete your opponent's hand every turn and, just try and stall them out of the game, I guess. Or maybe, it's a bit of a stall strategy for a post-rotation God of War build. That could be quite funny. But, as it stands, I don't think this has a lot of synergy with Banette EX, because Banette EX wants to do loads of damage for every trainer card in your opponent's hand. So, the fact that this is, shuffling cards from your opponent's hand, effectively depleting it, then I don't think there's actually a lot of synergy to be had there, which is a bit of a shame. But, maybe there's some other cool combos, like the Salazzle, which was came around in Stellar Crown, I think. That one had some promise with discarding cards in your opponent's hand, but it cost 2 energy, had to evolve it. It was very niche. This is very much, it's very straightforward in what it does, but remains to be seen if anything like this will ever take off with it being a stage 1. But you could do this turn 1 going second with Salvatore, so something to bear in mind at least. We also have this new Lycanroc line and a new special energy card actually called Spike Energy. Lycanroc's pretty interesting. When you evolve it, you get to attach up to 2 Spike Energy cards from your discard pile to Lycanroc. Kind of cool. And then Grabbing Fangs does 40 base and then 40 more for each damage counter on your opponent's active Pokemon. And it is worth noting you have Spike Energy, which says when this Pokemon this card is attached to is damaged or KO'd, put 2 damage counters on the attacking Pokemon. It also has to be in the active spot, by the way. So you won't be able to trigger this on the bench if your opponent starts doing sniping damage with the likes of Zacian, which is a bit of a shame. But, still a pretty powerful effect. Honestly, I don't think this Lycanroc is super great. Probably quite a fun rogue deck. You could play this with things like Rotom, which is a very cheap attacker, just to poke for 70 maybe. And then, Lycanroc comes in, finishes something off. You just try and discard a bunch of these in the early game. Lycanroc's kind of like your mid-game attacker for, like big one-shots, and then maybe you go in for like Cramorant, like Hops Cramorant in the late game. It could be quite fun. You could, of course, use Dusclops if you really wanted to take huge KOs. But the thing is with these sorts of decks is, there's a lot of really big, tanky two-prize Pokemon, so you have to like try and prize trade effectively with them. And your opponent probably doesn't want to play fighting type weak Pokemon. I can't remember actually. Does Pheasantipity have weakness to fighting, or is it weak to lightning because it's a bird? I can't remember actually. If Pheasantipity is weak to fighting, then this might honestly not be that bad. But you'd still have to get a bit of like spread damage involved. Maybe like it is interesting. I do like this deck as a concept, but yeah, it's probably just a bit too much to be viable, sadly. But Spike Energy is pretty cool and definitely like a fun rogue deck. So some very fun card reveals today. Looking forward to trying these out, even if they don't end up being the best cards in the world. But yeah, let me know what you think down below. It's been Power, and yeah, thank you for watching.